Good morning. It's January 17th today. Coming to you live from home because it's storming in Fargo and Moorhead. And so lots of people are at home today. Some of you guys made it to the office earlier this morning. I've talked to a couple of you that braved the weather this morning. Lots of schools are out. So if my kids step in and say hello, don't mind them. Today I wanted to talk about a scarcity and an abundance mindset and how that affects your business financially. And so we're just going to hop right into it, use the most of our time that we have today. So what is scarcity? What is an abundance mindset? And how does that really affect your business? So an abundant mindset is more, there's limitless possibilities. There's more than enough to go around. If you succeed, other people can succeed as well. You can afford certain things. You can always increase your top line. Those are the things we're going to focus on there. You're willing to learn from others with an abundant mindset. You promote others and their achievements, and you have openness, and you create an open environment and have a lot of trust in that environment. Where if you have more of a scarcity mindset, there's not enough to go around. It's much more competitive, and you need to make sure that you look good versus other people. So there's a lot of comparison and competitiveness in the scarcity mindset. You can't afford to do certain things because you're limited in your thinking. You might be reluctant to continue and share information, thinking knowledge is power, and that you have the answers, that nobody else can really come up with those things. And then you also promote only self and promote yourself and your accomplishments versus your team's and the group as a whole's accomplishment. And you sometimes dictate and micromanage if you have more of a scarcity mindset. So we're going to go through a couple things that might help you change your mindset and why this impacts your business. So a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with, a lot of business owners that I work with already have an abundance mindset, and you kind of need that to be an entrepreneur or be a leader in the business. And why that is because you're going to get knocked down a whole bunch. You're going to get knocked down all the time. Every other day might feel like a failure. And if you have a scarcity mindset versus an abundant mindset, you're going to feel defeated a lot of the time. So it's very important to try and have that mindset that is of abundance. And how you can do that, so I have 6 different things that you can do. So first thing is, let's see, I'll write this down, abundance mindset. So one thing you can do is you can be aware of your thoughts. Be aware. So what does that mean? Being aware of your thoughts. So being conscious of your thoughts and whether or not they are being positive or whether or not they're being negative, and whether or not they have that abundance kind of thought process behind them. So for instance, if you guys have recently done your budget for 2020 and thinking in that top line, that is really always an abundance mindset. So the top line, the number that you can get in sales and revenue, those kind of things should have an abundance mindset. So this world that we live in currently, there's a lot of money to be had. There's a lot of people spending a lot of money. So how do you get in front of those people so that they're thinking of you, that they are calling you? So there is, let's say in the financial services industry, that's kind of where we lie, or in the coaching industry. One comment that I had to somebody who would make us an amazing coach was, but there's so many coaches out there, and my response to her was, but not coaches like you. So in the scarcity mindset, we say, okay, there's a huge supply and demand's only here, so how do I fit in that? Well, in an abundant mindset, you say, but these people need me. These people need my skill set, and there's more people that need me than there is of me and my time to give. So that's kind of the abundance mindset, really on the top line revenue item. And if you're selling products, that you passionately believe about, then you would have an abundance mindset as well. Because not everybody in the US probably even knows about your product. Not everybody in our community of 250,000 might even know about your product or service. So the top line is limitless. It's abundant. So keeping that mindset in thought process. So how do you do that? You be aware of your thoughts. So in going through that budgeting process, if you're like, well, our revenues last year were 200,000, so this year we're gonna do 220,000. So that's like, okay, this is what we did. We could only do a little bit more than that. And thinking in terms of abundance, you can think 10 times that. So I just finished a book called The 10X Rule, and really thinking about your goals being too small, and that if you set that goal, so say you did 200,000 last year in revenue, and then you in your mind, I'm going to do 220 because it's just a little bit more, I don't have to work that hard for it, but let's go ahead and 10x that. What if I did 2 million in revenue? And really, okay, so say we have two options for goals here. This is last year, or in accounting terms, it would be PY, prior year. So this is goal 1, 220, and goal 2, 2 million. Why does it make a difference in what those two goals are? So if in this case, I'm going to increase my revenue by 20,000. In this case, I'm going to do 10 times the amount of revenue. Now, if I hit this goal, that's great, because that's in my mindset. That might be the goal that I'm making. So 20,000 more, that's all I can handle. But if I make this goal and I come in, say, at 50% of goal, I just increased my revenue to $1 million. So 5 times what I did. Yes, I didn't hit this goal, but I still did a ton more than the safe goal. So that's really kind of the being aware of your thoughts here in a financial aspect of making sure that you're setting high enough goals for that stuff. So being aware of your thoughts. And this can be even like super small things, like I don't have enough time this week, or I don't have this. So scarcity and being aware of your thoughts, and kind of like it's not the fake it till you make it, but it's really more like I'm training my mind to think in a mindset of abundance. Like, I have so much time this week. How am I going to use that time to be most effective? Or the other parts of abundance that could be in business. So time is one thing that's really scarce. Money. So say that things are a little tight after the holidays, for instance, and you're in your mind, you're like, I don't have enough money to do these things. I don't have enough anything to do these things. And switching your verbiage, and we'll get a little bit into that, but switching your thoughts into, I have this much money, look at all the things I could do with it. I'm going to choose to pay my rent and not get evicted. So that's a choice, right? So if you think of it as everything is a choice versus a have to, that really helps change your mind too. The second thing is practice gratitude. Practice gratitude. Those who know me know I can't spell, so I will be looking at my cheat sheet for that. So practice gratitude. What does that mean? So if you're reminding yourself the things you're grateful for, it's going to change your outlook. So if you spend the morning, so in my morning routine, I write 5 things that I'm grateful for. Usually it's people in my life, because I have a lot of great people surrounding me. So writing down their names and being specific. Like my daughter Kylie, so she is home today with Trigby, so I may not have him interrupt us, but he might still interrupt us, you never know. So I'm grateful for her. I'm grateful for her patience and her dedication to this family and to helping out with her little brother when I need to work. I'm also grateful for Carrie, who's on my team, who just keeps me sane. This time of year is our busiest time of year because we have a lot to do for our clients in a short amount of time. But it also, without her, I would literally be going crazy, and my family would hate me, and I would get 0 baby snuggles because I would be working all the time. So totally appreciate her. So starting my morning with gratitude is changes my mindset for the day. So although lots of things are going crazy or wrong, or school's not out today, so therefore if you had lots of meetings scheduled, you're probably chaotic of, I really wanted to handle that one, or maybe I'm okay with not going to that one and have to reschedule for next week. So having that starting your day with gratitude is very important to helping with that abundance mindset. The third one is recognize that there's countless possibilities. And I'm going to lean on Marie Forleo and her Everything is Figure-Outable piece there too. So read this book a while ago, or within the last year. So that's not really a while ago. Figure-Outable. And having that needs to be a piece of your abundance mindset. And why that is because so often we're told no. Like, I have an 18-month-old son who says no. That's his first word versus yes. So even if I want to say, do you want to, well, I'm usually like, do you want to kiss mama? And he's like, no. Or last week I was gone and I would call him and say, do you miss mama? And he says no. Well, that's the first word that he's learned, or not the first word, but one of the first of the no versus yes words he's learned. So we're trained from infancy that no is the first word. No, you can't do that. No, all of these things. And then as adults, we need to rewire our minds to think yes. And it's not just a flat out yes, you can do anything. It's yes, and here's the parameters in which you can do that. Or yes, I can figure that out. I might not be able to go straight. I might have to go a zigzag path to get there, but I can still get there. So there's a few different books that I really love that help with this. Everything is Figure-Outable. This recognize there's countless possibilities mindset, and that's Marie Forleo's Everything is Figure-Outable. John Miller has a Question Behind the Question book, which I read probably 5-10 years ago, and really kind of dug into what is the heart of the question and why does that matter, and then you can get to the answer quicker. So often we're asking the wrong questions. So if we can get to what the heart of the situation is, then we can find a solution. And then the other book is by John Maxwell, Great Leaders Ask Great Questions. So by asking yourself questions, you can figure out just about anything and know that everything is possible. Anything is possible. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to give or take. So I had this conversation in high school with somebody who was a track star, and I am not a runner. So it was kind of I shared with her a concept that she at the time didn't really think that was true. Is I said anybody can run a marathon, and the thought process was yes, anyone can. And even if you have to walk all 26 miles, you still can do it because it's more mental than it is physical. And at the time, it was a hard concept for her to grasp because, she's used to conditioning and doing all those things. And yes, those are great. If you want to run a marathon within so many hours, yes, you have to do all those things. You have to condition, and not just anybody can do that. But if you give and take, if you think about, if this is the end goal, run a marathon, then stipulations around that, or another example that somebody shared with me in this group this week with my coaching clients is that is the manuals that we write in our mind. So your manual is different than my manual. So when you react to a situation in one way, when you say, no, not just anybody can run a marathon, and I say, yes, anybody can, you might be thinking, nobody can run a marathon, not just anybody can run a marathon in 4 hours, or not anybody can just, and even the word run, to me, run a marathon means start at one spot, go 26.2 miles, and you end. So in my mindset, anybody who is capable of walking can also accomplish those things. It's just a mindset thing, whether you want to do it or not. So everything is Figure-Outable. That's super important in an abundant mindset. Okay, the fourth one is one that I posted about earlier this week. So we'll use that language. So be impeccable with your word. Holy moly. Maybe one day I'll learn how to spell with your word. And so that language comes from the Four Agreements, which is another book. It's actually a really short book and it's really easy to read. So being impeccable with your word and how that plays into your abundance mindset is being super conscious of the things that are coming out of your mouth. So the word can't, shouldn't exist. It's really a won't. Or if you want it to, it can exist. So I had a situation with a coworker who used the word, I can't mend this relationship, and trying to coach that individual to understand that it's not that you can't, it's that you're not willing to, you won't. So a can't and a won't issue here. So being impeccable with your word, that you don't use the word can't, you have an abundant mindset, because everything is figure outable. And having that language so that the people that you surround yourself with really understand what an abundant mindset is. So there is no word can't. It might be I don't have the skills yet, or it might be I won't allow myself, whether it's emotionally or physically, go there and do that. Those are different things than can't. So I don't like that word. If you're going to have an abundant mindset, you can't use that word. You will not use that word. You will not choose to use that word. Okay. So the growth mindset, and these could probably be combined to everything and is figure outable, but I wanted to touch on the growth mindset specifically. So if you've read the book, The 7 Mindsets to Live Your Ultimate Life, that's really about all the mindsets that you should have, mostly positively, all about growth, all about the next opportunity, and having that abundant mindset. The other one that is important is The 7 Mindsets of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I read that towards the beginning of my career. And they talk about that. And one of those specific mindsets is thinking win-win. So we're going to get into why an abundant mindset in business wins over a scarcity mindset. And that's a really big key to it, is that situations or transactions can be a win-win. And then number 6 is focus on the positive. So a question for you would be, have you ever met an entrepreneur or business owner who's a negative person? And you might say yes. I know this one person, and they're negative, and they're not keeping a positive mindset most of the time. It's okay for them to be negative once in a while, especially if they get hit hard by something. But you have to be positive if you're going to keep going. You have to have that mindset. You have to say, okay, we lost that job, but we'll get the next one. You have to always be thinking in the case of abundance if you're going to be a business owner or even an effective leader, because that stuff rubs off. Brendon Burchard talks about the energy you put out into the world, and that's your responsibility. So being very intentional about who, if you do feel negative, whether as a leader or as an entrepreneur, who you're sharing that negativity with, so that the majority of people are seeing you in that really positive light, so that you can keep that abundance mindset, so people can, when they're feeling down, so say that they just worked on this project. We've had projects go bad in my career that have been we've put millions of dollars into, that we've spent years in the making, and then they just go out, and you just got to be okay with that. And if the tone at the top is really bad and not staying positive, like, hey, look at all the things that we learned by going through this process, and we already have this done. So if another opportunity arises, we don't have to recreate the wheel. We can just get on that and use that information that we learned. So every situation, whether you feel like maybe it didn't result in a financial gain, but it resulted in a knowledge gain, there's always good to come out of everything. So keeping a positive attitude is super important. So let me check the time here. All right, 10 minutes. So the reason that I want to talk about abundance versus scarcity, and I should have brought a bigger eraser, is because of this concept of we have to be competitive with everyone, which is not necessarily the way that millennials run. So I know that we curse word the millennials, but I'm a millennial. I'm just on the cusp of Gen Y or Gen X and millennials, which is Gen Y. And there's nothing wrong with that mindset that you want to be collaborative and less competitive. And I'll show you why. So next time I will grab a bigger eraser or make my hand messy. That could be an option too. So we have competition or competitive, which is a scarcity mindset thing. So if you are in a competitive mindset, most of the time it's a mindset of I win, they lose. Or if they win, then I lose. That's not true. There's always something to be gained. Whether it's experience, it might not be a financial gain. It might be that they won financially and I just gained it experience-wise. So that's a competitive mindset. They win, I lose, I win, they lose. So the reason that works, and say you're in sales, because that's a highly competitive thing, right? So there's one customer with one transaction, so there's one thing to be won, one transaction to be won. So sometimes we incentivize salespeople by competing against each other. So why that actually works, what's the advantages of a competitive environment or system is one, it creates urgency. So usually if you have some type of competition, it's going to have a start and an end date. So it creates a sense of urgency. I have to get this done in this set amount of time. And then it also improves productivity. And why that is basically because you created a sense of urgency. So it improves productivity by creating a sense of urgency, like I need to get this done in this amount of time. So that's why there's an advantage to being competitive. Now the disadvantages in our current workforce are you increase the stress. So some people get basically handicapped by their stress. So if you have those people on your team, you need to be cognizant of that and make sure that if I'm going to compete again, if that personality exists in my organization and I'm creating a competition to try and increase urgency and productivity, it might actually slow some people down. So not everybody's personality type likes competition. So it might increase stress. It might create resentment. So, and why resentment can exist in a competition is if it's because it's a scarcity mindset thing. Because you just told somebody that this is a winner and this is a loser. That's what you do in competition. So you're creating resentment among your employees. So say that you create a top sales goal for whatever and there's only one person that wins. If it doesn't rise the tide, which is a collaborative environment, if it's a competitive, there's winners and losers, then you create resentment of the team. Like, I don't like you anymore, especially if they're playing dirty, like, I know that was your lead, but I called them anyway and I closed the deal. And there's not an abundance mindset in the organization, that's going to create resentment. And the other one is the potential for malicious behavior. So we can just write backstabbing because that can happen, especially in the scarcity mindset, because you think I have to get that deal. If you get that deal, then I don't get a deal. Versus saying you get that deal and I'll get this deal and we'll work together and we don't even have to collaborate. We can just work and know that by us both being successful, that's greater for the organization, that's greater for our own mindset as well. So this would be scarcity. Scarcity. And then we have collaboration, which is an abundance mindset. So the advantages to collaboration is you have self-reinforcing cooperation. They've improved the division of the work. They become more creative. So how can we both close a deal versus going after the same deal? Let's get creative. That's not that hard. You improve your quality of the experience that both your employees have and your customers are having, and you reduce costs and cycle times. Here's an example of that. So let me just write a couple of these down. So creativity increases, cost decrease. So here's an example of why costs decrease. Okay, so say, so sometimes banking can be competitive because it feels like a commodity, right? In our community at least, there's a whole bunch of commercial bankers. And if you get the deal, then somebody else doesn't, right? That's the competition environment. If you think of it in more collaborative environment, if I help this business owner get a loan or get their needs met, that I'm building that relationship. And on some things, it's going to continue to be competitive, but on most things, it's going to be who can make my life easier. So I've increased the quality of the experience the customer is getting. Now, when we talk about costs, even and quality, so say that I'm competing with somebody internally. Say that we created a sales goal and there's a winner and there's a loser. Now, if I'm very competitive, which I am fairly competitive, but I don't have this scarcity mindset. If I was very competitive and had a scarcity mindset, I would not share my secrets. I would not share the effective ways to reach and get into clients. I would not share the secrets of why I have quality relationships. And that's not helping anyone. It's not helping my organization. It's not helping my team. And it's not even helping me. So this was a mindset that I changed probably most significantly when my family was in an accident and I wanted to not be physically present in the office anymore. So I was holding on to certain things and not letting anybody else do them, and kind of the mindset of, if somebody else knows how to do my job, then I don't have a job. And that's a scarcity mindset thing. But that's not true. If I teach other people how to do my job, then I create more opportunity for myself. Because if I'm doing this much work and that's my capacity, then I can't do more work. So if I don't pass it off and I don't teach other people how to do quality relationships, how to reduce costs, and how to get creative, then I'm not doing the organization any favor, and I'm creating scarcity in my own life because I'm not sharing that information. So the collaboration is much more effective in this environment that we work in today versus the competition. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and books, and they talk about this. They talk about, I'm not scared to put out all the information, all the secrets to my business out there. And yes, they could gather it all and replicate it, but are they going to do that? So we have a little bit of energy shortage, if you will, in how hard people are willing to work for success. So if you have a scarcity mindset, don't be scared. You can share everything you know, and the likelihood that they will get to where you are is, well, if you do it right, is good. And that's okay, because then you can launch and go further. So don't have a scarcity mindset, be more collaborative. But the disadvantages, there's disadvantages in being collaborative too. So the disadvantages would be there might be too many leaders. Oh darn, then our organizations are all better in our community. So that could be one thing in your organization. So I like to tease that Roars is an organization that builds leaders, builds business owners. So if we ran the statistics, which I just thought about yesterday, maybe we should even run that, of people leaving the organization and how many of those went and actually started their own business. And why that is because they don't have a competition mindset there. They have a collaboration mindset. So like me, myself, I got to learn a crap ton. And because they just like, if you want to know, you get to know. kind of thing, and having that collaborative mindset, like, yeah, you can have a seat at this table, you can learn about this. So they created too many leaders, and organizationally not everybody can be at the top, so they go out and they do their own things. And if you still have that collaborative relationship, you're all going to bonus from that. So it's really awesome how this works. So too many leaders is not really a problem. It might be if you want to keep everybody in your organization, it might be a little bit of a challenge that you have to overcome, but it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have too many leaders. The other disadvantage is different work styles. So collaboration isn't that easy. It doesn't just happen, because every human being is different, how they work, what their personality preferences are. And you can work through those things through organizational help or people who are certified in certain personalities to bring them in and be like, here's your strengths, here's your MBTI personality, and how do we work together? How do we really create a collaborative environment? How do we discuss openly without anybody getting offended? Because that's really important. And trust plays into this a lot, into the ability to collaborate and have open conversation. The other disadvantage to collaboration is that also, although it can create too many leaders, it also can create an opportunity for people to be lazy. And what does that mean? So that just means, okay, say that I'm in a group think environment. So we are now brainstorming on some ideas, and say that I don't want to actually execute on anything. I have that opportunity more in collaboration than I do in competition, because it's going to be very obvious in competition that you're not doing your job, that you're not pulling your weight. Where in a collaborative environment, it might be a little less obvious, but that's okay, because this one, the collaboration and the advantages are much more beneficial to your business. You're going to decrease your costs. You're going to increase your quality and your creativity. And in these days and age, with so many players in the market, those are very important to your bottom line. They're very important to keeping employees, which we know specifically in our Fargo-Moorhead market that is very hard to do, because the workforce is there's a shortage in the workforce. So keeping quality employees is not the easiest thing to do. So you need to create that environment of collaboration where you're increasing your quality and creativity and decreasing your costs, because you're sharing things among different groups. So even if you think this division, it doesn't make sense for them to understand this process, that's not true. That's not true. It could be applied in many different ways, whether it's a sales process, whether it's an accounting process. It can be applied in many different ways. So don't recreate the wheel. Be a sharer. Be collaborative. That helps with your abundance mindset, because everything is figure outable. Thanks for joining today's Finance Friday, and we'll see you next week.